Most people live their entire lives believing that a paycheck is security. They wake up, go to work, collect their wages, and feel safe knowing money is coming again next week. But in truth, that feeling is the most dangerous illusion in modern finance. A steady paycheck doesn't buy freedom, it buys dependence. I watched generation after generation of workers mistake reliability for stability. They believed the goal was to keep earning, not to stop depending, and so they spent their lives serving the same cycle. Earn, spend, repeat. Each promotion, each raise felt like progress, but it wasn't. It was a larger cage, built with finer bars. When I began teaching finance, I realized the cruel irony. The person who feels financially comfortable is often the one most trapped. The moment the paycheck stops, their entire life collapses. That is not wealth. That is survival disguised as success. The modern system reinforces this belief. You're rewarded for showing up, not for thinking differently. You're encouraged to work harder, not smarter. Every institution, from banks to employers, quietly benefits when you remain predictable. Predictability means you'll borrow, you'll spend, and you'll depend. I call it the illusion of earned safety. People trade time, the only asset that can't be replaced, for money that disappears the moment it's received. They convince themselves they're doing the right thing because everyone around them is doing the same. Yet, if you pause and look closely, you'll see the pattern never ends, because it was never designed to. Freedom begins the day you understand this illusion. The paycheck is not the prize, it's the pacifier. It keeps you calm enough to forget you're still chained. Real security doesn't come from knowing money will arrive next Friday. It comes from knowing you no longer need it to survive. If you earn money only to need it again, you're not working for wealth. You're working for the system. And the system, as it stands, has no interest in letting you go. To understand why the paycheck cycle exists, we have to go back to the moment it was designed. Not discovered, designed. The Industrial Revolution didn't just create factories. It created a new kind of human behavior. Before it, people worked for themselves. Farmers, craftsmen, traders. They controlled their hours, their output, and often, their destiny. But as machines replaced skills and corporations replaced communities, something changed. Work was no longer about creation, it became about repetition. The weekly wage was introduced as a way to control the worker's rhythm. You didn't need to love your work, you just needed to depend on your next payment. The employer discovered a powerful truth. If you keep a man slightly uncomfortable, never starving, but never free, he will return every Monday without fail. That was the birth of the paycheck trap. And over time, the system refined itself. Schools began teaching obedience, not independence. Students learned to follow rules, meet deadlines, and fear failure, the same habits that make reliable employees. Banks stepped in next, offering loans, credit cards, and mortgages that chained the worker's future income to the present moment. Suddenly, your next 20 years were already sold, before you'd even lived them. Governments joined the game too, rewarding consumption through policy. You're encouraged to buy homes, cars, and luxuries you can't afford, and penalized when you try to save or invest differently. Every structure, corporate, financial, and educational, points you toward one goal: to keep you earning, spending, and relying on the system that profits from your dependence. This isn't conspiracy, it's efficiency. The paycheck system keeps the economy running like a well-oiled machine. Predictable inputs, predictable outputs. The problem is, you're the input. Your time, your energy, your peace of mind. I often told my students, the system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed, just not for you. The moment you believe your paycheck is your security, you've already handed your freedom to someone else. The key isn't to reject work, it's to understand its purpose. Work should fund independence, not dependence. The paycheck was supposed to be a bridge to freedom. Instead, for most, it became the bridge they never cross. Most people believe they're escaping the paycheck cycle by earning more. A promotion, a raise, a new job. It feels like progress. You tell yourself, once I make $10,000 more a year, things will finally change. But when that money comes, something strange happens. Life expands to consume it. The car gets newer. The apartment gets bigger. The dinners get fancier, and somehow the bank account remains just as empty. This is not a personal failure. It's behavioral economics at work. Humans are wired to adapt quickly to comfort. Psychologists call it hedonic adaptation. You buy something new, and for a few weeks it feels like a reward. But soon it becomes your baseline. You need more just to feel the same satisfaction. The problem isn't that you don't earn enough. The problem is that your desires keep upgrading faster than your income. The paycheck trap feeds on this illusion of progress. Every raise becomes another set of golden handcuffs. The more you earn, the more you commit. Car payments, subscriptions, lifestyle choices that depend on the same monthly deposit. You don't realize it, but your freedom decreases as your salary increases. You're not working for a better life. You're working to maintain a more expensive cage. Benjamin Graham once wrote that the investor's chief problem, and even his worst enemy, is likely to be himself. That truth extends beyond investing. It defines personal finance. We mistake activity for advancement, income for wealth, and spending for success. You can run faster on the treadmill, but you're still on the treadmill. Every system around you reinforces this illusion. Advertisers sell you the dream of rewarding yourself for working hard. Social media shows you a curated world where everyone seems richer, happier, and more successful, pushing you to keep up. Employers quietly benefit, because the deeper your financial obligations, the less likely you are to walk away. The harsh truth is this: earning more doesn't free you unless you know what to do with the surplus. Freedom doesn't come from income, it comes from control. A $5,000 surplus invested wisely creates more power than a $50,000 raise spent foolishly. But because most people never pause to redefine what enough means, they never step off the track. They just accelerate it. The illusion of progress is powerful because it looks like success. But real progress is silent. It happens when your money begins to work harder than you do. When your lifestyle stops chasing your paycheck, and your paycheck starts serving your purpose. Until then, the cycle continues, no matter how big the number on your payslip gets. It's not ignorance that keeps most people in the paycheck cycle. It's fear. Deep down, many already know the system is designed to keep them dependent. They know the debt is suffocating, the expenses are endless, and the illusion of progress is false. Yet even with this awareness, they stay stuck. Why? Because breaking free demands a kind of courage that few ever develop. The courage to delay comfort and confront uncertainty. Benjamin Graham often said, "The essence of investment management is the management of risks, not the management of returns." In personal finance, the greatest risk isn't the market, it's your own unwillingness to change. Most people cling to the safety of the familiar, even if it's drowning them. The paycheck, though small, feels secure. The monthly routine, though limiting, feels predictable. The idea of disrupting this fragile balance feels terrifying. And society reinforces this fear. From a young age, you're taught that success means stability, a steady job, a car loan, a mortgage, and retirement decades away. Step off that path and people start calling you reckless. The truth is inverted. Dependency is rewarded, and independence is discouraged. When someone decides to live below their means or invest aggressively, they're often seen as cheap or too cautious. It's social conditioning at its most subtle and powerful. Then there's the emotional weight of comparison. When everyone around you spends freely, saving and restraint feel lonely. You begin to justify your decisions. I deserve this. I'll save next month. I work hard. I should enjoy it. But behind these words hides the real motive, fear of missing out. You don't want to feel left behind while others seem to enjoy life. So you trade your future peace for present validation. Even when people finally realize the system's trap, they often look for shortcuts, side hustles, crypto trades, credit card points, or new jobs, anything that promises a fast escape. But these shortcuts rarely work because they don't address the root problem: mindset. The habit of consumption remains. The emotional need to spend remains. The same paycheck cycle continues, just with different numbers. Graham taught that an intelligent investor must be emotionally disciplined. Calm when others panic, patient when others rush. Yet, emotional discipline isn't glamorous. It doesn't give you quick dopamine hits. It gives you silence, slow progress, and delayed satisfaction. That's why most people avoid it. They want the reward without the restraint, the wealth without the waiting. The truth is, freedom feels uncomfortable at first. Cutting expenses, rejecting debt, saying no to what everyone else calls success. It feels isolating. But that discomfort is the price of liberation. Most people would rather stay in golden cages than walk barefoot on the path to freedom. They stay trapped not because they cannot escape, but because they are afraid of what life looks like outside the cage. The paycheck cycle continues not because the system is invisible, but because comfort is addictive. And the longer you chase comfort, the more freedom you trade away. One easy swipe, I'll start next month, one paycheck at a time. The most dangerous prison in the world doesn't have walls. It has comfort. It's the quiet, familiar feeling that convinces you to stay exactly where you are. You're not in pain, but you're not free either. And because comfort whispers instead of screams, you never question it. You assume life is fine because it isn't unbearable. That's how the paycheck cycle tightens its grip, not through struggle, but through mild satisfaction. Comfort is seductive because it feels earned. You work hard all week, and the small pleasures, the dinner out, the new gadget, the weekend escape, feel like your reward. You tell yourself, I deserve this. But every time you trade long-term progress for short-term pleasure, the system wins. The banks collect interest, the corporations collect profit, and you collect temporary relief. You're soothed just enough to return to work on Monday. Benjamin Graham often warned that emotions are the enemy of rational behavior. In markets, this means panic during declines and greed during rallies. In life, it means mistaking comfort for security. We forget that security isn't a T having enough to feel good today. It is having control tomorrow. But control doesn't come from comfort. It comes from discipline. And discipline rarely feels comfortable. Modern life reinforces this trap perfectly. Subscription models ensure money leaves your account automatically. Social media normalizes luxury as necessity. Marketing sells you convenience as success. The system doesn't need to enslave you. It only needs to keep you distracted. As long as you equate comfort with achievement, you'll keep feeding the cycle, willingly. Ask yourself, when was the last time you felt uncomfortable on purpose? When did you save instead of spend, delay instead of indulge, learn instead of escape? True freedom always begins in discomfort. Every financially independent person I've ever studied had one thing in common. They tolerated what others avoided. They accepted the boredom of saving, the patience of compounding, the restraint of saying no. Comfort becomes dangerous because it erases urgency. You stop dreaming beyond the next paycheck because the next one always comes. You forget that time is slipping, not dramatically, but quietly, invisibly. Each year feels safe, until suddenly, it isn't. One lost job, one health scare, one economic shock, and the illusion vanishes. Then the truth hits. Comfort wasn't protecting you. It was preventing you from preparing. Graham used to say that wealth is built, not in great moments of action, but in long periods of inaction. The investor who can sit still while everyone else moves, that's the one who wins. The same rule applies to life. If you can remain disciplined when everyone else seeks comfort, you will outlast them all. The world tells you to enjoy the present. But what it really means is, spend now, worry later. Every comfort you overpay for today is a chain you'll carry tomorrow. The goal isn't to reject comfort forever. It is to earn the kind of comfort that doesn't depend on a paycheck. The kind that's built, not bought. Comfort feels safe. But safety without freedom is just a softer form of control. If you've seen the system clearly, if you now understand how comfort, debt, and fear keep you trapped, then you stand at the first real choice of your financial life. Not the choice between jobs or investments, but between living as a consumer or living as an investor. One path trades time for money forever. The other makes money work for you until time becomes yours again. That choice is your escape plan. Benjamin Graham's entire philosophy rested on one foundation: control. Control of emotions, control of capital, control of risk. The intelligent investor doesn't react, he plans. And your escape from the paycheck cycle begins the same way. Not with luck, not with income, but with structure. You don't need to earn millions. You need a method. The first step is awareness. Track where your money actually goes. Most people believe they know, but when you confront the numbers, the illusion cracks. You realize how much leaks through invisible habits, subscriptions, takeout, spontaneous rewards. Each one seems small, but together they form a silent tax on your future. Graham would call this the emotional premium, the hidden price of undisciplined behavior. Step 2, reduce dependence. The system thrives on your commitments, monthly payments, fixed costs, financial promises. Each one locks you tighter. Start cutting them. Pay off what drains you most, cancel what adds no value, automate saving before spending. Every dollar you remove from obligation is a vote for freedom. Step 3, build reserves. Wealth isn't built from income, it's built from time. A 6-month safety net buys you the power to say no. It turns survival into strategy. Without it, every setback becomes a crisis. Graham warned that investors must always have resources in reserve, not just cash, but calmness. The same applies here. Step 4, invest intelligently. This doesn't mean chasing trends or gambling on hype. It means understanding value, in assets and in yourself. Every dollar you save should work in a place where emotion can destroy it. Broad markets, stable businesses, or skill building. Graham believed investing was not about being right once, it was about staying right long enough. Step 5, simplify. Complexity keeps people trapped. The more accounts, cards, and distractions you juggle, the harder it is to see clearly. Simplify your financial life like Graham simplified investing. Steady principles, few moving parts, maximum discipline. And finally, step 6, detach identity from spending. The consumer mindset tells you that worth equals lifestyle. The investor mindset tells you that worth equals independence. When your joy no longer depends on purchases, your life begins to compound like capital. Your escape plan isn't a sprint. It's a philosophy. It's the slow shift from being owned by your money to owning your money. It's the moment you stop asking, "How can I afford this?" and start asking, "Do I even need this?" Breaking the cycle doesn't require genius. It requires endurance. Graham's greatest students weren't those who predicted markets, but those who stayed patient through noise. You don't need perfect timing. You need perfect temperament. Debt wants you impulsive. Society wants you distracted. The investor's way demands you become deliberate, measured, patient, and independent. Once you start living by those rules, you're no longer part of their system. You've created your own. Freedom is not about riches. It's about control. The moment you no longer wake up anxious about bills, deadlines, or market swings, you realize what Benjamin Graham truly meant by financial peace. It isn't luxury. It's clarity. It is knowing your life no longer bends to every fluctuation in the economy or opinion of others. You are guided by principles, not pressure. That's the ultimate reward of escaping the debt trap. Money stops owning you. Most people chase freedom as if it's an event, the day they quit their job, buy a house, or hit a certain number in their account. But freedom isn't a milestone. It's a mindset cultivated over years of disciplined thinking. It starts when you stop measuring wealth by possessions and start measuring it by independence, by how few people can dictate your next move. Graham taught that every intelligent investor must be emotionally prepared for volatility. The same rule applies to life. Even when you reach financial stability, the world will still test you. Recessions, rising costs, unexpected losses. But the difference is, now you respond instead of react. You no longer panic because your foundation isn't built on consumption or debt. It's built on patience, reserves, and reason. Freedom also brings a strange silence. When the noise of money fades, you begin hearing your own thoughts again. You notice how much energy was once spent chasing appearances. The new car, the bigger house, the expensive validation. Once you let that go, you discover that real wealth feels calm, not loud. It's the ability to read in peace, to choose work that fulfills you, to spend time without counting minutes or dollars. But here's the paradox. True freedom requires continued discipline. The same habits that freed you must maintain you. Graham's investors didn't abandon caution after success. They doubled down on it. They stayed humble, patient, and grounded. Because freedom doesn't mean spending without limits. It means never needing to prove anything again. And something else changes too. Your relationship with time. You stop rushing. You begin to see compounding not just in money, but in everything. Health, relationships, knowledge. You realize that wealth isn't about acceleration. It's about duration. You no longer chase highs because you understand that the steady path, though less exciting, leads you further. Freedom also deepens your gratitude. When you live free of debt, you start valuing simplicity. You don't crave everything. You appreciate enough. You stop asking, "What can I buy next?" and start asking, "What can I build, protect, and give?" That's when money transforms from a burden to a tool. It becomes a quiet ally in a well-lived life. Benjamin Graham's teachings were never about becoming rich. They were about becoming rational. Rational enough to see that money is only powerful when it serves purpose. Without purpose, even abundance feels empty. With purpose, even modest wealth feels complete. So what does financial freedom feel like? It feels like waking up unafraid. It feels like peace during chaos. It feels like control, not over markets or people, but over yourself. And once you reach that point, you realize the irony. The goal was never to have more money. The goal was to need less of it. Share this with someone still trapped in the comfort of debt. They need to see the way out. Subscribe and keep learning the principles that turn money into freedom, not fear.